and welcome back to the ClickerCast. Welcome, Season 2 is finally here, and we have a whole new cast of people, if you will. Well, not really whole new, but we now have Shotgun McPain joining us this season. Yes, say hello.
Me when I'm the new hole.
Yes, yeah, you are,
I don't
absolutely.
know if you're next to me, but I'm just pointing. Like,
Yeah.
right there.
Nope, the Shotty is down.
Oh, he's down. Oh,
He's
oh.
Wait,
down.
I'm over. Wait, I'm over here. Well,
No.
I'm over here, but you guys are over here.
Yeah, no,
right?
you're right there. Technically
Wait,
there, but
I
yeah.
guess.
Okay,
Like,
there we go. Now,
Yeah, you're right
now
in the
I'm
middle.
back.
Right in the middle.
That's a great intro.
Yeah, that's
fuck
a
is
great
everybody?
intro. Yes, welcome back to the ClickerCast. Yeah, so we kind of missed the first episode due to some casting and scheduling issues, but that's okay because we're gonna make it up today by doing the first 2 episodes of Season 2. And we're just gonna get some thoughts, feelings, opinions, any like little Easter eggs that we saw, whatever it may be.
Sure.
So be it. I also want to preface this. Spoiler warning. Massive spoiler warnings.
Massive.
If you have
Spoiler
not...
warning. Game as well. Are we doing
Yes.
game as well?
Yep,
Correct. I'll say
absolutely.
spoiler
Yep.
to the game up to the point, just so we're
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
not going
Yes.
too far ahead for
Spoilers.
anybody that hasn't
Yes.
watched
And
or
even-
played the game.
Even for the first game and the first season.
Yeah.
If
Well,
you have
absolutely
not
from the
seen
first game,
either,
yeah.
Don't watch this.
this is your warning
Okay.
to
No.
leave if you plan on watching or playing, whatever it may be. Spoiler warning. And also
Enjoy the
another point of discretion is that there's a lot of controversy around this game regarding some certain characters. We will
Yes.
all have different views and opinions. Everyone is going to be respectful, and if you're not, you will not be able to view the podcast anymore.
Agreed.
Okay,
That's agreed.
so
Because
Absolutely.
here's like, I was going to put my point to that. This is the debate. This is a debate
yes,
podcast.
certainly.
Wow, I can't fucking talk today. And the great thing about debates is they can be friendly and they can be opposing.
Mm-hmm.
People
Sure.
can have different
Yeah.
opinions, and you don't have to go off your rocker. So
Yes, we will certainly
just
have
what
different
Argus does.
opinions, so we will all be respectful of each other's opinions, thoughts, whatever it may be, regardless of how you may feel about the characters or the events at home.
don't come at me, bro.
Exactly, don't come at
She
us.
was in a bubble, dog.
Oh, goodness. Okay, yes. So, first of all, Shotty, since you are new, I would love to get your thoughts and feelings on the first game and first season before we dive into Season 2.
Well, hi. My name is Shotgun McPain. Shotty, you know. My pronouns are he, they, and I love The Last of Us. Obviously, I'm here. I hated that game, actually. I'm ready to dog on that dog shit game. Holy shit.
Kick him
So-
off. He's gone.
God, I fucking...
He's out, he's gone, it's over.
Yeah, no, I played The Last of Us 1. It's weird. Side tangent, and I swear we won't go into there. But it's really weird how we call things like the one after it, you know, or before it. Like we're just like, oh, this is just The Last of Us, you know,
Yep.
and then we're like, oh, part 1. It's like
Yeah.
just breaks my mind.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
Well, it's like with God of War.
yeah, got to
God of War
2018.
2018.
Yeah.
And then you got God of War 2.
Yep.
And you have to
Yeah.
play all over 2017 or 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I played The Last of Us Part 2. No, Last of Us Part 2. Last of Us Part 1. Kind of on a whim, actually. You know, I really enjoyed Naughty Dog's games up to that point. I'd heard rumblings about it. And I really liked Uncharted. I really liked Jack and Daxter. Obviously, Crash Bandicoot. I've kind of been like through it all. And I remember playing it and just I was watching my grandma's house for the weekend, and I played through the entire thing in one sitting. And it was such an experience. Truly one of the best like one-off stories in my opinion. I never needed for a part 2. I'm glad we have a part 2, just to have like a little bit of expansion on those ideas. And yeah, I think that I really love part 1. And then when they did the series, I think that they did such a great job of not only paying homage to what the game was, but also had a lot to say outside of that. You know, obviously episode 3, everyone talks about episode 3. It's like one of my favorite episodes of television, just period. And yeah, like I think that they do enough in there to really like actually enhance the overall story. So and with both these seasons, at least so far, I very much feel that they are meant to be like a companion piece rather than you only watch that. Like your hope is that people go and play the game, but I think they work so much better as something that that it can be talked about alongside each other. So that's kind of like my history with The Last of Us. And then, of course, part 2 came out. I was working at a games journalism website at the time, so I got to edit some really cool things, thoughts and opinions about what people had about Last of Us 2 at that time, and so that was really a cool experience to have people who are passionate about that and to talk about that with. So just like I am here now.
Yeah, definitely. We're very happy to have you with us.
Oh yeah.
So, moving into the series. Actually, Ballistic, you had a recap on season 1. Did you want to touch on that before we move on?
How far do you want me to just recap it? Just kind of what happened.
Whatever you want to do. Yeah.
So yeah, for those that either play the game or watch the show, it did follow it pretty much to a T. Obviously you open up with a new form of cordyceps. It's no longer spores, which I thought was very interesting that they went into this tendril, the way it kind of actually does travel and talk to itself almost throughout these hordes. So it actually was a very interesting aspect, in which we saw massively in episode 2 of season 2. So there's also theories about that. I saw theories of how those cordyceps entered that area, but yeah, so it pretty much just follows along with the game, and you go through the hospital. They did kind of veer from the game at times, because obviously you can't put a whole game play for play into a show, which again they did fantastically. And pretty much they get into the hospital. Joel does what he does, and they end the season with the way the game ended. And Ellie says, "Tell me that everything you said about the Fireflies is true."
Okay.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And ironically, that's about how we opened up season 2.
Yes. Yeah, that is pretty much exactly how it opened up season 2. It is an exact continuation on, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on how they did that. When it just started, essentially, like, they cut the camera, split the video, next season. Any thoughts, opinions on how they did that? Would you like to have seen it, like, done a different way? Or is there something that you really liked about it? Either one of you may go first.
No, I think they did it fantastically. I love the cold open.
Yeah.
You meet Ellie. Or not, I'm sorry, you meet Abby. You meet her entourage at that point, which ironically did have Nora, Manny, and all that, which I don't believe they met until they went to the Wolves, but that's besides the point. And then they cut and they open up to the ending of season 1. And then they continue that by them walking into essentially was Jackson now.
Yep.
So I thought they did that. The opening was phenomenal to me. Like just that opening 5 minutes. I think they did very well by introducing everybody kind of right away.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I have thoughts about these first couple of episodes.
Okay.
So Oh, okay. I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
Here? Okay.
Where was I? I
Hey.
said I like the idea, and then I stopped because I was like, oh wait, we're frozen.
Yes, yeah. I was like,
Yeah. So yeah, I like the idea that we're starting where it left off.
Okay.
I think it adds that new, like, you don't have to do it exactly like the game did. However, I think, and I'll get more into it when we talk about the full extent of it. I think what they took and what they're doing with the intro isn't as impactful for me. I think that the intro of Last of Us Part 2 is perfect. And not to say that you can't tweak it, like you can say you can't mess with it. But I think they're having a lot of overcorrection just because of what happened with Laura Bailey, and how people were absolutely ridiculous, sending death threats to Abby, essentially, or the actress who played Abby.
mm-hmm.
And so I think that they very much wanted to take this point to soften the blow, and I think that that's kind of what's happening. And again, as much as I do enjoy the introduction of Abby there, I think it takes away from the blow when it does happen. Again, we'll get into it later, but when the thing that happens does happen, I think it doesn't hit as hard because you're like, oh, I already know everything. Like, I know Abby's social security card at this point, like.
Well, I think they did that for the people that have not played the game.
Right.
Definitely.
At all. Like, that know nothing of what's coming. And you still wouldn't know because you think it would happen so much later into the series.
I think that scene works better as a later in the series thing because it gets you, again, it reestablishes her motives. Because I think, like, when you have it to where, obviously, like, in the game, she's, if I correct me if I'm wrong too, but you don't necessarily know entirely why she's there, but you know she's there for some sort of revenge,
Well, you don't necessarily know what her motives were in the game, period, until you get to
the point.
Well, not even to that point. You don't find out until as you're playing Abby.
Yeah, like the full,
you're still a
motivations.
quarter of the way through the game before you even know. But I think they did it this way because it's a lot harder to do this in a series than it is in a game to kind of follow that timeline.
Yeah.
So they're following the timeline of the game perfectly, which means they have to do either some foreshadowing events or those flashbacks that they were doing throughout the game. So I think, personally, I think they did it very well for the people that haven't played the game.
Yeah.
Because again, and we'll talk about this more in depth later on this podcast, but there is a lot of rage with that scene.
Yeah.
And again, once we get into the season 2 recap later on in this podcast, we'll touch on that more, but that's a whole nother issue that I think we have to address, especially for the people that have not watched this or played the game or watched somebody play the game. You guys need to chill out a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah,
tanking the ratings of this fantastic show.
Yeah. Definitely.
They're upset.
I think it is as much as we are all passionate about it, like, I do want to take this time to say, don't be fucking dickheads.
Yes.
Like, it is just, at the end of the day, it's just a game. It's just a show. Like, these people are trying to make this art, and if you didn't like it, voice it. Like, do let it be known, like, I didn't really like how this went, but be really, concise about what you're saying, and not
like if
this actor personally
threatened
me.
No, and I think that's the dumbest thing to do in shows, because one of the hardest things as in shows or movies in general is trying to readapt the game. It is the hardest thing to do, because what do people do when they play the game? They go this way, they go that way, they do this, they do that. They don't follow the true path of the game, because a lot of people, like myself, try to complete games into its entirety. You cannot do that in the series. You have to either, because a lot of the dead space in the game where they're not showing the storyline is you playing the game. They can't adapt to that. That is the hardest thing to do is they're filling these gaps
Yep.
with
Definitely.
a story, and they are doing a fucking phenomenal job at that. I cannot reiterate that anymore.
I would say what I love about the first season is that they kind of, not to a T, but they kind of adapt the narrative very on the nose, but also use that time, the added time that they're given, because you don't have to have gameplay, right? They use that added time to add stuff, like at the beginning when they're adding a little bit more to Sarah's story, and like giving you a little bit more context, and it hits harder. Like I think like that's the thing, is like I still like, the emotions wise, I still like think the scene of the game is better, but it hits harder when you're like, oh, you see Joel and Sarah in their daily lives, and I think here they're taking much more of like, well, we hope to soften the blow, you know, as it were, so that it's not as angering to the internet trolls, right?
Yeah,
I think you're gonna anger them. I think you're gonna anger them anyways. Like damage is already the damage is already done to them, and at that point you're softening the story. The story overall is about revenge, right?
Yes.
And it's about anger, and that's the point of the game, is that you have this anger towards Abby, and I think they did so much to where like, we want to make sure you know who Abby is and the motives of Abby before the act happens. And I think that, to me, that just softened the blow.
Yeah, well, I think they do that particularly with shows, is because they do something very clever in games. If they want you to feel for a character, they have you play as that character.
They have the ability to add the control, right?
Yeah,
like
and so kind of going back to your point with Sarah in the first game, who were you controlling that entire time?
Right.
You were controlling Sarah, so you really learned like, oh, I am this character. I'm playing as this character, and they kind of cleverly do that with Abby's story as well. So leading up to, again, the points that were kind of leading up to, you played. And at that point, once you find out motives, you've played her for a bit and you kind of start feeling like, oh my God.
But I think that works better when it's after, when you're already kind of angry at her, right? Like you're already like, you go into this like, why would she do this? And you hate her. And that gives you the motive for Ellie. And especially like with them doing the Dina, the Dina push, to where like Dina's got a little bit better of a relationship with Joel. And I think like having both of them, I think it would have added so much there. So it gives you more if they just did it the way they did it in the game and not let you know a little bit more about Abby, it would hit hard, because then you're rooting for both Dina and Ellie to go in, and then when the split happens, I think what ultimately is going to happen is the fact that they're going to end the season on the Switch, and I think that they didn't want to have a year gap to where people can just be mad at Caitlin
I
Bieber.
think so. I think so with that, but I also think, and again, I got my opinions on that, how they're going to end this series. I think that should be, I'll give that more towards the end of the podcast after we do our recaps. But I have a theory on how they're going to split this. Me and already talked about it a little bit last Sunday. And so far, my timing predictions have been pretty spot on of how they're going to end up doing this, for sure.
Well, we also like on top of that, we have like our Bill and Frank episode this season's going to be about Eugene, because we've already had Joey Pantaleone cast as Eugene. So I wonder how that's going to factor. And I think with this, what my biggest issue with these two episodes is that they're just like, hey, like The Last of Us, hey, like, and I think to me, like it's even like the I don't. Again, I know we're just starting things, so I don't really want to get too
Yeah.
far. But like even like pointing to the golf thing, like pointing to the golf, and Chur just like looking over, and the camera zooming. I'm like, it's just a little too navel gazy to me. And like when people talk about Neil Druckmann kind of being a little bit more in the sauce of things and being like feeling himself more, I think that I finally feel that a little bit more. Especially because he's like, I've got a successful TV show, you know, and there was the him and Alex Garland talked about we're talking, and Alex Garland was gassing him up, and guy who made 28 days later,
yeah.
and all that, and Ex Machina wrote Ex Machina, and it just like kind of gassed him up, and I think that that's kind of he's got it kind of getting to a point where his shit doesn't stink, you know. To me, anyways, I'm finally kind of seeing that.
That's
kind of like the auteur brain. So yeah.
So I do kind of want to go back to when we were discussing about controversies.
Yeah. Okay.
And I mainly want to focus on the controversy of Joel going to therapy.
Don't like it.
You don't like it?
Really?
Why
I
is
don't like
that?
it.
Why is that?
Again, this is me going back to the games, and this is my one. And again, we talked about this kind of in depth when after the show.
Sure.
Joel, to me, has and will always be this closed-in, tough, you know, dad. And I think the whole thing that drove him to make the mistakes that he made is because he was getting older and slower, and just kind of at ends with himself, I think, at that point, to where he just kind of dropped his guard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But why, like, for me, why add that therapy aspect? Like, I think to me, that was more of a director decision on trying to connect with more people. I don't think it was, in my opinion, it was not a necessary ad for Joel to be in therapy. That didn't add to the story. That didn't add to anything. The only thing it did was, oh, Eugene now has a wife. Eugene is still dead, but Eugene does have a wife.
That's the other.
And to me, it didn't add anything as a story. It just seemed kind of like either Druckmann or whoever was like, hey, we need to reach out to more people and try to connect with more people. So we're going to have Joel be in therapy.
See,
I don't agree with that.
See, I think my point with that is that he obviously has this conflict with Ellie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a point where Joel wouldn't, like you're saying, Joel wouldn't go to therapy. Joel's very much the person who's like, therapy, I don't need therapy. Yeah. I'm a man, brother, you know, like.
Yeah.
And I think it takes Ellie for Ellie cutting him out of her life because of the incident, because of him killing the fireflies. And I'm pretty sure we know at this point, you know, like that she knows something at the very least. And I think this is like he's just starting to go to therapy. I think this is like him, like he knows I don't know the character in the show's name, but he knows Eugene's wife. But this is the first time he's asked for her help because he's like, I don't want to have to I want our connection to be better. And how do I do that? And this is not for him. This is for Ellie. This is for him trying to reconnect with Ellie. So I think like that's the point where, again, it's not necessarily that he would do that on his own. It's the fact that he is doing this to keep Ellie, just like he killed all those fireflies to keep Ellie.
Right.
I think it is a self-motivated thing. So, and he's like, well, I can try, you know, like. And he's just kind of going begrudgingly. But then he's
Gail, by the way.
Okay,
yes,
Gail.
Gail. And for those, do you know who she is? Does anybody
Catherine
know
O'Hara.
Yes.
Who played famously
Home Alone, the mom in Home Alone, and in Beetlejuice, the mom in Beetlejuice.
There you go.
Yeah, we love Catherine O'Hara here.
I know. That was a nice little cameo for me. I'm like, ah.
Yeah,
There
and
she is.
she is so good in the series. I do take umbrage a little bit with her being like Eugene's wife, because I'm like, in the game, I don't know if you probably remember, but like in the game he's a part of the Fireflies with Tommy, and he leaves his family.
He leaves his family behind, yeah.
And I think that would have been such a better. I don't want to say anything because like his episode obviously is going to come up, like he's going to have something going on, and obviously they're hinting at, you know, in the game he has a stroke. Like in the game,
yes, he died of a stroke.
Yeah.
And
in this one they made,
they're like hinting that he turned or something. I still think it's going to be a stroke. I think they're going to use this to be like, Eugene knew. Like Eugene picked out the fact that, oh, Joel killed those Fireflies, and I think that's why Joel had to put him down, and then they said it was a stroke. And
that's interesting. Okay.
Very interesting.
I think that because she says, you put down my husband, and I saw the way you did it. And I'm like, Joel has a reason that he's putting down Eugene. Like, he's not just the fact, like, obviously I think that there is still like an underlying cause of like, he had a stroke, he's not going to live, but he's also going to suffer. And he's like, oh, you had a stroke. I wonder if it's like something, I don't know if necessarily it's timing where it's like, oh, he had a stroke and not, he knew, but so now I'm going to kill him for sure to make sure it's like gone. But I think that'll be a great Firefly connection, because again, like having that a little bit of Eugene and being like, oh, like I've stayed in touch with a couple of Fireflies and they're not like, where did you last come from, you know? But I don't like the fact that they took that away from Tommy, because I think him having the conversation with Tommy is it provides that little bit more motive for Tommy to be like, oh, I don't know, Joel. You know, like, So I'm interested to see how they play that out in the season.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that is interesting.
What do you think, Artie?
I didn't hate that he went to therapy, to be honest. Since that's where we started. I didn't hate the idea of it. I think that having that outlet in a world such as theirs is not super outlandish.
Right.
Because there's a lot of tough shit happening all around you every single day, and that'll get to a person real quick, I think.
No, I agree with that. I'm not saying that it would be outlandish to have some kind of therapy. It's just the character development that I know of Joel. It was odd to put him there.
Yes, I mean, I agree to an extent, but I also think that Ellie has also softened up Joel just a smidge, to the point that he feels this way, and he does this in order to repair what happened between him and her. And he's
desperate at this point.
Yes, he's desperate, and I don't think it is incredibly outlandish that he is doing this to fix their problem.
Okay. I mean, I don't disagree with you. I just, like I said, my own take. It was just my own take on it.
Yeah, and that's totally valid too. Yeah. Totally fine. So speaking on that, I suppose, is how are you feeling that Joel and Dina have a seemingly really healthy relationship with one another?
Makes sense.
I really like it. I'm surprised they didn't do it in the game.
I think they kind of sublet it to where I'm pretty sure they did. Because it seems like everybody in that little knit of Jackson was extremely close with one another. So to me, it makes sense, as somebody who is Ellie's best friend, also has a good like daughter best friend, relationship with the dad. Yeah, so I like that addition to it.
It's interesting that they show. To me, it's interesting that they show their relationship first. It's that they show Joel and Dina's relationship first before they show Dina and Ellie's relationship, like how they are together. Like I think that's very intentional, to where like it'll give her more of a motive to go out, not just, hey, I care about Ellie. I did care about Joel, but I care about Ellie, and I'm gonna go with her. You know?
Yep. definitely.
Yeah, it gives more of a dynamic of I will follow you for this till the end now,
Right.
no questions asked.
Yep.
Right.
Definitely.
And for those that haven't played the game, you'll see what I mean.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You'll see what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. So we did see just about a 1-to-1 recreation of the New Year's party, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
How are we feeling about that? Because I'm
incredible.
feeling really good about it.
1-to-1.
1-to-1. Yes.
Phenomenal.
Yes.
I think it's the best part of the show so far.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I think it's
Honestly.
really good. Absolutely.
Like to the T with the lines.
Yeah.
The way
yep.
the way she was standing against the bar next to Jesse, just holding
Yep.
a drink.
Yup.
Dina comes up to her sweaty, and it's just
Yeah.
that made me smile. That definitely made me smile. I think I was smiling.
Yeah. Well, and I think like the way they acted it out, like in the game,
Yeah.
like Joel just pushes what's his name?
Yes.
Pushes him.
Yeah.
In the show, Pedro is coming up and like
He
charges
bodies the
him.
motherfucker.
Yeah,
Knocks his
body
ass
it.
down. Yeah.
Bodies
Yeah.
his ass.
Which I think also relies like the credence of like, hey, I'll do anything to protect Ellie, and it also like
Yep.
adds more into
Yeah.
that thing of like Ellie. I like even like I'm also trying to protect myself from Ellie, so I'm getting help. Like,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that also adds
The amount of
a bit to their
people
relationship.
The amount of people that were mad at Ellie for being a dick, it's fucking hysterical to me.
So that's
There's
the thing.
so many people that were like, "Oh, she's such a bitch."
Yeah.
That's
And
the
I
thing.
thought so too.
That's the thing, though, that I don't like about the show is they make her. I think they make it so people give credence for her to be a spoiled brat, like
Yeah.
what people would see as a spoiled brat.
Uh-huh.
Like you have these things, you have that, and like it's interesting how they're like keeping Abby kind of like, yeah, so here's her motivation, here's like what you should feel about her, here's all this, like, so like to a T, so that you don't have any recourse. You're like, oh, okay, I kind of get it,
Yeah.
whereas Ellie, they're treating her more like a rebellious teenager.
Right.
And if
Yeah.
you're like, oh well, she
Yeah.
just doesn't respect her elders and blah blah
Yeah.
blah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it gives more credence to people be like, well, Ellie's character, and I think it will add to it obviously at the end of the game, but I think it makes her seem more like a brat.
Yeah,
to
I mean,
people.
but it
Yeah.
did seem that way in the second game too, because you don't know why she said that to Joel,
Right.
and you don't find
Yeah.
out till
But I think they do more
30 hours into the game.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
do
definitely.
more
Found
in
out.
this to make her like when Tommy and her are out shooting runners and clickers,
Mhm.
when they when she's like, I can't get infected, like, and just is being like the rebellious teen. I think you have a bunch of like people who are just like turn up their nose and are just like, no, like she's just a brat, like she's just lashing out and blah blah blah, which is what a teenager would do for sure. And I think it works too, because my biggest thing with people's like, well, I don't know why Ellie would blah blah blah. It's the fact that she was literally raised by Joel, like. Since she was 14, she was
Yep.
raised by Joel, and especially with it
Went through a
being your
lot.
most with your being
Yes.
most complex years of your life, like you tend to pick up more things through that. So I think that also what you're seeing is like at the end of it is a version of Joel, and she has to choose.
Oh yeah.
She has to choose whether or not she wants to continue being Joel.
I think Ellie is just mini Joel, even in the fucking first game before, like just into traveling, just the way her
Absolutely.
antics were.
Yeah.
And again, like she went through a lot with Joel.
Right.
She killed her first person.
Right.
She
Yes.
almost got killed, and the way that she killed, oh my god,
Is a cannibal guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
forget his name.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nah.
Yep.
And like
I would say
that's-
Deacon, but I know that's not
I think it's
right.
David.
no,
David.
David.
Yeah.
Yes, David. But And like just going back to that episode in season 1, the baby girl.
Yeah.
Always like
Yeah.
Yep.
in the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
In person.
Mhm.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And then just the blankness of just kind of going through everything when they go would see the giraffes. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I was talking to my mom about this because we started playing the games. I started playing the game with her, so she knows like a little bit of the game. But I was talking to my mom about the fact that the Sam and Henry thing happens, and then immediately after that is them or no, it's not Sam and Henry. It's sorry, it's the scene where they have their first real big fight. Like, do you know what your life means? And that's like that is the moment where he no longer sees her as cargo and actually sees her as a daughter. He's opened it up, and then you get to the university and he's talking about, oh, I wanted to be a musician, and this is what football used to be like, and it's like that sort of stuff I think is so important to the story and the connection.
Yeah.
Again, like there's little moments that hit there, like you said, like when they're fighting the bandits and like it's like he has to show her how to shoot a gun, and all that. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
Okay, and this will be the last thing on episode 1, and then we can get into all the big juicy stuff. Is the introduction of them going like into this building with a clicker in it, and like essentially the store scene happening so early.
Yeah, that threw me off.
The timeline of things.
The timeline is the Ellie and
Dina.
No, not Dina. Ellie and Tommy doing the shooting.
Yeah.
That's a flashback leading up to the ultimate point of what happened.
Yeah.
It gave you a backstory of Tommy saying, "I'm going to stay here." And go with Joel to the music store, but these are fucking tangents.
There you go.
The introduction to the stalker.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Very early. Very early.
I don't like that thing. That's even worse than the fucking show.
Yeah.
They were bad for me in the game.
Yeah, they're
But
freaky.
those,
yes.
God, did you notice the like fucking holes and shit on the feet for
the
the
tendrils coming out of the nose.
Yeah. But also, it leads to the point of like, or I like the fact that that's early on because it leads to the point that these creatures are not only just going to stay clickers, like they are evolving.
Yes,
like they are not only the bloaters are not the highest extent. You know, like
these ones are smart.
Yes, but here's the interesting thing on that. In the timeline evolution of the cordyceps virus on people, you go to your kind of more zombied out runner that are just starting to turn. They don't know what's going on, so they're still. Then you got your actual full-blown runner. Then from runner, you go to stalker. You start noticing the fungal coming out. And then you go from stalker to clicker. And then clicker over to blah 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 shambler bloater.
Yeah,
It'd be bloater than shambler, I think. Yeah.
I wonder if we're gonna be fucking shamblers.
Yeah, could be.
Could
be. Yeah, like I think that scene is really good, especially like if you know in the game. Like I was sitting with my mom and I'm just like I heard I saw the little. And I'm like, oh shit, like it's happening. Oh god.
The first thing out of my mouth when I saw that, I'm like, stalker.
Yep. Yeah, he did.
But like the timeline on this intro stuff is
throwing me
I don't
off
know
a little bit.
I don't know why they're messing it up. Or not even messing it up, but messing with it. Because I think that there's certain things, and especially we'll talk about it when we get to episode 2. But there's certain things where I'm just like we're losing so much to try to hit little bits here and there. So I hope it ends up paying off. But yeah, I there's certain things that they're doing with timeline wise that I'm like, and yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that massively in episode 2. There's a very specific timeline or switch, not timeline, but switch.
Yeah.
That I did not like.
Now, is this where we're gonna end episode 1?
Oh, we're just gonna keep going. Yeah.
That's what I mean. But we're still done with episode 1. My one question to you both.
Yeah.
Where do you think? Which intro of an episode do you think we get future days?
Ooh.
I think it could be as soon as next episode. Because imagine, okay, you have Joel's death, like the most horrific thing. We're gonna talk about it, but like Joel's death, the most horrific.
Warning. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
The most horrific thing.
Yeah.
And you save future days and that moment for the next episode, and have that be the intro, and like have that like twist the knife a little bit, of this is what we lost. And I think you could do that next, or I think saving it for the last episode of the season and being like, remind you why we're here. So that's like a very important moment for me. So I'm interested to see what they do with that and the remix of it all.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where they're going with that as well, where they're going to place it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
This is a juicy episode coming up.
Moving into episode 2, one of the first things that we see is not only this big horde, but a pipe running through Jackson full of cordyceps. Okay? And if you remember, at the very end of the first episode, you see Ellie cutting out the piece where she got bit in the store. Now, there has been a lot of theory that... That's what I was talking about earlier. Yes. There's been a theory going around that because her blood went down the drain, that is what caused the wild buildup of cordyceps in the pipes. And I'm very interested to hear what your thoughts are on that, seeing that that could have been the cause, or... not necessarily cause, but a factor to the horde showing up at Jackson.
I think it does, because at the end of episode 1, after she does that, their zoom in is to those pipes.
Yep. Certainly
and
is.
You see them just starting to creep through like they just got there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that is the theory. Like, because she was cutting out the infection. The infection is in her blood.
Yep.
Right.
Her immunity never... You're going to find this out later on. So, again, as we've said throughout, spoiler warning for both the game and the show of what's going to happen. But you find out that she's not technically immune. She's always infected.
Yeah.
Yes.
The infection is in her.
So then I don't even remember. So she's like using the sink to...
Yep.
Yeah, she's actually just cutting out her
she's using
wound.
her knife at the sink, cutting out the bite, and then the blood goes down the drain.
And then adding that to be also Jackson being her fault. Like...
Yeah.
If she realizes it, she realizes
definitely. I'm very curious to know your thoughts about the horde in general, because that's not really something that we saw in the game.
We kind of did, just not to Jackson.
Right.
We saw the horde with that as we were playing with Abby.
Yeah.
But we never, because again, it's very hard to...
Yeah.
It's just very hard to do that, like, split thing.
Definitely.
Before we get into, like, any, like, of the specific horde stuff.
Okay.
How fucking cool was it to see him shambling out of the fucking snow, dude?
Yes, that was really
so
cool.
Fucking Christ.
Yes,
100%.
absolutely. I really love the use of the flamethrowers there. I thought that was really cool. I think overall, like, the whole scene was really interesting to watch. Because you don't see that from Jackson at all.
No, because as far as you know, Jackson's this untouchable place.
Yep.
They're not immune. They show that Jackson's not immune to massive hordes rolling through. It's not the safe haven. It's in a very real, shitty, fucked up world.
Yes.
Where anything can happen. And I like that they brought that aspect into Jackson. That Jackson isn't this, full on utopia, armored utopia.
Yeah. Although I will
think-
say the barrels, when they rolled him
Yeah.
down and shot him
Game of
and set him
Thrones.
on fire.
That was amazing.
Oh, that was so cool.
Yeah, that was sick.
That was good.
I think spectacle wise, it was really, really cool, and I'm glad. Like Ballistic was saying, like I'm glad to see like the not so safe side of Jackson. Like what happens when you do have this horde. However, I think it's also having that be the juxtaposition of Joel's death. I think what it takes away from how cold and senseless it feels. Joel's death. Because then you're cutting between this massive like oh my god literal video game level, like where it's just like oh my god there's so many horde, and then you're just like the slow, cold, and painful death of Joel Miller. And I think like you do a better job to just let that be on its own, and let you sit with that. I think what they do so well in the game is again like it's like they have no idea, and these still have no idea, when when the whole thing happens, but at the same time like it is such a 1-2 punch of Tommy walking into the lodge and it's like, oh yeah, we have some, you can resupply over at Jackson, like we can help you out, and there's like literally this guy trying to help out survivors. And then it's like I'm Tommy and this is my brother Joel, and you can see every single one of their faces turn. And then it's the shotgun blast. It's like, it's because they do, and like you shot, and the mood immediately changes.
Yeah.
And I think that having that again in the game, having that be the only thing that you're focusing on, makes it so that you have more of this. Not to say that you don't have this motivation in the show, but you have more of that motivation in the game, where you're just like, holy shit, this feels so senseless. Where I think that having the horde in the show, it makes it feel like Game of Thrones, where you're juxtapositioning something that's so cold and painful with just like, and also this tragedy is happening over here, I think it takes away a bit.
I think they're doing this because they added a new aspect with Tommy having a child. So what I think is going to happen, because normally Tommy is the one that goes with Joel's on these, on these watchouts, and he didn't this time.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to play a sense of, if I was there, I could have saved him. Now they need a bigger reason for him to leave Jackson, because now he's not only leaving a wife behind, he's leaving a wife and a child behind. So I think they had to kind of incorporate that in this level of a show. Not just, he's my brother, I was there with him, so I'm going to get my revenge. No, I think it's going to be more of, it's my fault he's dead. Now I have to avenge his death, because this is my fault. And now Dina's going to play the role of Tommy, because Dina was the one that got her shit kicked in, technically. Not really, but
yeah.
I think that's going to give her a bigger motivation also to go with Ellie.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I think the Tommy thing, though, regardless, is he feels at fault. Especially in the game, he feels at fault, because it's just like, he's literally the one who says, "This is my brother Joel." Like, it's literally like, if they didn't necessarily knew, which obviously like still it would have happened because Abby knew it was Joel. But like at the same time, I think that he does blame himself. So yeah, I do wonder what the motive of having him have a child in the show does, because then like how do you break Tommy away from that? How do you make that senseless call, especially after he is this leader, and it's really, I will also say
Yeah.
it's really cool to see him be the leader of Jackson and be like stand up on a table and be like, everybody gotta get ready, you know, it's gonna be bad,
Yeah.
we're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Like here's where this, like just see him take charge was really cool to see. But I think it's gonna, if he does leave or if he does end up like taking off, like it's going to be really hard to reconcile with that fact, not only just because he has a wife and kid, but also because Jackson literally just went through the biggest problem in its entirety of existence. So you essentially, you think at least.
Yeah.
So I wonder how that's going to play out and what they're going to do. Because so far, it's just like the Dina thing. I think the Dina thing, like having Dina be there, is great, especially with the context of her being more close to him. But I don't feel like they do anything with it because they put her to sleep. Like, imagine having Dina there and screaming just as loud as Ellie is at Joel being, especially if you're putting up this idea that she is just as much a daughter to Joel. And I don't think I don't think they do anything with it. So, yeah.
Okay, that is interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I found really interesting from the episode, not necessarily like that scene, is when you see Abby, both currently and presently, like talking to each other before she finds her dad.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was one of like the coolest things.
Yeah. I really did like that.
Yeah, you're liking it too? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I would love
especially
because
it's like future and old self.
Yes,
like current self
absolutely.
and or like younger self and the current self. It's like don't fucking go in there. Like his brain's like
his
because
brains are on
somebody
the floor.
somebody who's already run through this scenario so many
they've
times,
processed
you know?
it to some degree, and it's like that's a kid who's finding their dad literally in pieces on the floor.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really interesting way to show you that was her dad in the operating room that Joel killed. I really did enjoy that. I
think we need more moments like that. I think we need the more show moments.
I think they're coming.
Well, not even just like I think a lot of times I don't feel like in this season they're not even respect their audience. That sounds like really harsh, but I don't think they're giving like the what am I trying to say? Like they don't have faith in their audience to pick things up. And I think like they have to spell things out. You know, we have to spell it out that, hey, yes, my dad, the doctor that was on the operating table, that was operating on Ellie. Like, that's my biggest problem with this is that in the game, it does such a great job at
leading up to that
show
point.
don't tell.
Yeah.
That's my biggest problem with this season so far.
Okay.
And I will have to agree with that because I think again, what they're doing is going to show my age, but they're trying to keep the younger audience in by having to explain everything. Because not a stab at the younger generation at all. I just want to throw that out there, but there's more things to take your mind off of what you're watching instead of like when, I was younger with shows, that's all you did. They didn't have to spell things out because your attention was on that show.
Yeah.
I think they have to do that more spelling out thing now because there's more electronics. Kids will be like this and then, okay, whatever, that's what's happening. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's why they have to spell things. I don't like it at all. Like just like you, but I think they have to do that.
Yeah.
They're doing that on more than just shows. They're doing it in sports as well. So
my pushback on that is I don't think they did that in the first season. I felt like they did a really good job at like this is where we're at, but you don't necessarily need to know, you don't have somebody, and I like my mom, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like my mom and my dad both will be like, okay, so we're scrolling TikTok. Okay, look what's on Facebook. Oh, okay, like, Joel died. Okay, like, Yeah, I think that unfortunately, because you are fighting with the phones, you know, and all that, I think that is a factor. I personally think it is, again, just softening the blow of Abby. I think they're not wanting. I think they're not very much not wanting what happened to Laura Bailey to happen to Caitlin Deaver, which I think is a great, you know, like great sentiment, great thing to do, because obviously super fucked. I unfortunately think though that people who are going to have that take and feel that way, regardless of how much you soften the blow, are still gonna be pissed.
Definitely.
And yeah, like I think by softening the blow, you're making the impact of that feel lessened. Like even my mom, who hasn't played the second game, she was, when we were watching it together, she's like, "Oh, I didn't think they'd kill him," and that was her reaction. You know, like I feel like it doesn't feel like this traumatic thing that it needs to be. And that's my biggest issues with these two episodes.
I think that it hits more in games though, because you're in
control of everything.
Like in control, and you spent so much time.
Yeah, and that's the other thing.
You gotta think you're playing, you know, The Last of Us, the first one, because I played the original,
right,
the remake, and the remaster.
Right. Well, that's the thing too, is that I was talking to my mom about the fact that, you know, between the seasons you only have what we've been 2 years removed at this point.
2 years, yeah.
Between the games, you have literal almost 10 years removed.
Yeah, it was
from
2020, right?
2013 to 2020, yeah.
So about 7 years, and but again, you're putting 20 plus hours playing this singular character, and you get to you grow. And like, oh my God. And then they open up, they give you a little bit. They did it again very cleverly. They opened you up and you're playing Joel.
Right.
Which should have said something to us.
On
the first game.
That's the thing too, is that like not only do you have those hours, right? You also have the in between time. Like Joel, we weren't sure if we were getting a part 2. You know, like I was totally fine not getting a part 2, but I was like, when a part 2 was announced, I'm like, oh, sick, we're getting more Last of Us. And the thing is, like, we mythologize these characters, right? You know, like just like we do. I mean, it's a weird comparison, but just like we do people like Mario, you know, where it's just like, oh, like this is like when you think video games, you think Mario, and like when you think like mature games, you're thinking Joel. You know, like I mean, what was the first thing that came up when God of War 2018 came out? It's like, oh, this is just Joel 2.0. Like that, like that's how much the character was mythologized at that point. You don't have that really with you don't have that really with the show, because it's like it's got such a short time. So I
got both daddy modes in here, so we're good.
That is true. Yeah. I don't know. I feel really indifferent about it because, like, I was spoiled on the game. So, like, it did not have that impact that I think it should have when I played, because I went into the game knowing it was going to happen. So, I don't know. I feel like, and it's so hard to compare, too, but, like, I don't know. The show has hurt me more than the game ever has. Really? Which I feel like is a very unpopular opinion.
Well, I think that goes very well for people that really haven't like deep dove into the game, like you know, someone like I have, or I don't know how much you've played the game, but
I just started my 3rd playthrough when it came out on the PC, so I don't have like a ton, especially with 2, because I'm just like, it's a lot to take in. It's a long game, and it's a lot to take in. Like, especially I feel like the themes of this game are very much in line with, you shouldn't feel like you want to play that game for a little bit, you know? Like, it's like, oh man, I feel like, but also I get it, the mechanics feel really good, you know?
It was phenomenal.
It is a brutal story, though. Absolutely. Yeah,
but I think that was their whole point, though, is we need to make this show for people who have not played this game. But for people that have played multiple rounds of this game, both of them, it's going to put a little bit of a sour taste in our mouths, I think, because it is going to differ.
Mm-hmm.
We are already comparing you and me both. The game plus the show timeline doesn't match. But for anybody who hasn't played the game, that timeline doesn't mean shit.
Right. I think with the timeline stuff, it comes more down to where I know where things are going, and like not only like with the show, right? Like obviously I don't know what happens with the show, but I'm like, how do you ping pong that to make it better in the show, or even be just as good, like telling that story? Like I think if we're going to the point of Joel dying, like I don't want to also gloss over the fact that instead of Dina finding the weed shop with Ellie, it's Jesse.
Yes.
And I'm like, what? You don't have. I like that they give Jesse a little bit more, but like, I feel like it's such an important scene to
That
have
was a
Ellie,
very
and
important
Dina.
scene with Dina.
Yeah,
I
and they
think
just took it away.
That was a mistake.
Yeah, like
That was a 100% mistake because it does not make sense.
Yeah.
Again, for us that played the game, that showed a very huge dynamic with Ellie and Dina of how much they actually do sincerely like each other. It wasn't a one-off kiss at a drunken dance.
Yeah.
It was a legitimate. They may have been a little stoned, but you know, that's fine. But it was a legitimate connection. They slept with each other.
Yep.
Well, and that's kind of like she has to. I think the other thing is in that that moment she sees the scar on her, like it's like this is what happens with blah blah blah, and then sees the scar on the arm, and she has to like lie about it. You know, like
Well, I don't think she ever had the scar on her stomach. She was never bit in the stomach in the game.
Well, no, she did have like some sort of scar on her stomach. If I
there
remember
was something
correctly, there's something. I don't think it was from a bite, but I just think it was like
probably from like where from the Boston
David
or something.
That. Like so like they were going over like the scars, like, oh, I got this, like learning how to skateboard, I think is what she says. Like I think that those intimate moments are so important, especially where we go with Dina and Ellie. I think that to take that away, to just have a little conversation of what's going on with you and Joel from Jesse, and then on top of that, them being like, also Eugene, there's something going to happen with Eugene this season, you know, like I feel like that's the only thing you get out of that, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm proven wrong, and I'm like, oh, this meant something.
Do you think
but so
that
far I
there's
feel like
a
the
chance-
changes.
Do you think there's a chance that they would like go back to that and maybe like revisit that shop at another time, regardless if it really fits the timeline of the story or not?
I don't think that they revisit it. I think that they do it in a different way at this point.
I think they do. They'll do it in a different way because I think it would just be a pointless ad to have them already leave. Like maybe because you gotta think though, in the game it was this basement secluded area, and you know that had a couch that had a hangout session. From the looks of it, from what I saw, this is it's a convenience store.
Yeah,
right.
With just shit hanging on the rafters. There's really nothing. Nothing there. But
in the game, it's like a den, right? Like it's underneath
the I think it's a library.
Yeah, you turn on the generator, and it's like secret door, you know, like, and it's just, oh, this is a 7-Eleven, like you're saying, you know, like,
it's just this intimate moment with Dina and Ellie. Like they gave us an entire episode for a character development that never happened in the game that didn't really need to be explained. In all honesty, I love that episode. It's a great episode, but we could have done without that episode. They didn't have to incorporate that aspect.
I think it makes Bill and Frank's, if that's what you're talking about, the Bill and Frank
episode.
Like I think that makes that story much better, especially when you play the game again. Like that's why I think that the first season does so well off the rip is like when you play the game, you feel more because you have the companion piece.
Now you have that.
Yep. And I don't feel like you're gonna have that with
they changed a completely very important dynamic, a relationship dynamic, a relationship character development, like even more so. That would have been maybe a 5 to 10 minute thing, but they gave us an entire 50-minute hour episode of Bill and Frank. Like,
Right.
why make that change? That doesn't make any sense to me. Why not have, okay, now you didn't have to have Tommy with Joel, just maybe Jesse. Have Jesse with Joel.
Right.
Have Jesse get knocked out. Whatever.
Yeah.
I think the Dina is perfect if you're gonna. I think the Dina is the only person you can change out for Tommy in that role. I just think they don't do anything with it. Again, especially when you're like when you are building Dina up to be this other daughter character. You know, like it just I don't. With the other thing again, I don't think the Jesse thing. I think we have a decent part with Jesse in some aspects with Ellie because she's like she asks a little bit more like, oh, is Dina talking about me, like, and blah blah blah, and like they have the oh, you kissed Dina scene, you know, like and I think that does such a great
That's pretty fucked up
bit.
though.
Yeah.
They still added that. I was wondering if they were because I wasn't too familiar. The timing was throwing me off.
Yeah,
and they that knock, that late knock. I'm like, is this gonna be that like very wholesome scene between Ellie and Jesse? And like it was. I mean, I was
Well, I
was
think
very pleased with that.
You get everything you need to know about Jesse in just that walk. And so I think then when you have her go out with Dina, it's more impactful because then like anything you give Jesse, because it's just like, oh, then you have the story of Dina and Ellie, and Dina being like, oh well, I'm not going out with Jesse anymore, and like Ellie kind of like lighting up a little bit and asking more questions, you know, like, and you really build that relationship. Whereas like, not to say that obviously they have a little bit more than a friendship in the show, but like it is built up a lot more in the game, and I think like right now you could have the perspective that they're just best friends. You know, like I think that it's
as of right now,
I
think it's so important to have that in those intimate moments. Again, we're talking about a game series that's ostensibly about love, right? And what you will do to go to the ends of love. And to have, I think what's so important is to have the juxtaposition of having Ellie find this love with Dina in the weed den, and then immediately Jesse's like, what are you doing? Joel and Tommy never came back. And then her love going to Joel. And I think that's more important than a scene of like TV. And I think like what you're saying with like having to keep the audience. And I think that's what the Horde was to me.
Yeah.
Like, it was a great scene, cool scene, but like I don't know if it does anything to the context of the story, the narrative, or as a whole.
So here is my hope on how they're going to establish that relationship with Ellie and Dina, because they need to. They have to. Why? Because Dina needs a damn good reason to go with Ellie. Now, it could be one of those instances where, you know, how Ellie goes through Joel's house.
Yeah.
And you see it in a lot of shows. You see it in a lot of movies. The heartbreak, intimacy of that full-on comfort and that legitimate bond. I hope we see that here in the next episode, because that's the only place where the timing of that's going to make sense.
Yeah.
Is they have this connection as Dina is consoling Ellie that leads to kind of what we had in Eugene's weed shop in the game. I could see it possibly going that way because that's how shows work. I mean, I'm just going off of like in every show, every movie, that's what happens. But that's the only place where it seems not appropriate, but where I think they'll put it.
I think we're gonna see a very different version of that, because I think we're gonna see Dina be the poker at the bear. Like Ellie already wants to go, but I think like no, we should go, and that's what's gonna be Dina's gonna be say, because she has that better relationship with Joel.
I don't think
than in the game.
That is interesting.
I think she's gonna be like, it's like, I just want to kill those fuckers, and Tommy's already been like, no, you can't, like, you can't go.
Do you
blah,
think he'd
blah,
like
blah.
turn more into
It's
a
like,
family man then?
I think those two. I think it's hard to rip him away from a wife and kids. Like, and Jackson again.
Yeah.
We're talking about a Jackson that literally just had the biggest security breach. And he, as the leader, is gonna want to stay. And I think like he's like, we don't have enough people to go, blah 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 blah. Like, and obviously we don't have enough people to go in this time because it's like, yeah, we really don't have the numbers. And I think Dina's gonna be the one to push regardless, because Ellie obviously is going to want to go, but she's also gonna want to listen to Tommy because of what happened at Jackson. And then Dina's gonna be like, fuck that shit, we're going. I think she's gonna be the pushing over the edge.
That is interesting.
That
is interesting.
I disagree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we saw in episode 1 was Ellie being the pusher.
Right. Oh, I don't think that Ellie's gonna be like. I don't think that Ellie's gonna be sit back and want to like being like, no, we shouldn't. No, I think that she's gonna be all gung ho about it, but being like, well, there's nothing we can do. Like Tommy said, there's nobody, and then Dina's gonna be the one that's like, fuck that, I'll go with you.
Well, I think what's going to happen, again, I hope it's going to happen. It's going to happen in that instant where I'm thinking that they're going to put that specific scene. It's going to be hand on hand. I'm with you through this till the end. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be all that needs to happen. I don't think because Ellie already doesn't really listen.
Yeah.
And she just lost technically her only father figure that she's had in her life.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think she's going to need a push or I don't give a shit. I don't think anything that Tommy says, Maria says, because she was going here regardless with or without Tommy.
In the game.
Yep.
I think with
but
the
Tommy
context
just
of the
ended
game.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Tommy just ends up leaving that night, and you find out in the morning when she's already out that door. She was already leaving it regardless.
Yeah. I think that with Tommy, it's going to be hard to really reconcile with the fact that, again, you're leaving at a time where you have a young child and Jackson just had the biggest security breach. So I think that the biggest change we're going to have is Tommy and have the grief of not being there. But also like he has to, like, he's going to have much more of a reason to stay.
I think he's still going to go.
I think he's still going to go, but I find it hard to have them reconcile with that without, again, Tommy not the greatest character in the game either, but like leaving your literal children, wife and child, and all these people, you are the leader of all of these people. I think it's going to be hard to reconcile in a show of like, like he just left, like. Whereas in the game, at least, it's just like, oh, Jackson's okay. I feel at fault for not being there for my brother, or not being able to rescue my brother. Like, that's why he goes. Whereas this one, he's not. He's defending Jackson. He's got a kid. Like, again, I think it's gonna be hard to reconcile with that in his character, without making him a huge piece of shit, I
don't think they're going to do that, but it would be idiotic to not have him leave. If they find out, I swear to God, if they find out a way to keep Tommy and Jackson, I will be pissed. That'll be not the ending point of me watching this show, but the whole dynamic of the show fucking differs. Because the whole reason now that you're in...
Yeah.
Like, the only reason now that you're in Seattle, not only to find Abby, but you're also now going out there to find Tommy.
Tommy, yeah.
As a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
I think you've already shifted that, though, with things like Tommy not being the one in the circumstance. I think you already shift that with Dina having a better connection with Joel. Like, obviously, I'm pretty sure that Dina's going to have the same amount of rage as Ellie to go after these fuckers. And how do you reconcile that at the end of the game when they're like, I'm just gonna say the end of the game, when the events that happen and the farm stuff, how are you gonna reconcile that where Dina's like, don't go, like, when she literally is gonna have like this motivation, or like, I guess the only way you could do that is like, oh well, I got over it. You
Well,
know,
I
like
have
not only
a-
I got over it, you know. Anyways,
Do you think, and again, spoilers, as if we haven't said this already, but like, do you
We're
think
gonna say it a million
the
times.
fact,
yeah.
yeah,
I'm trying to do future spoilers, but
yeah, but this is like, it's just a question that I have. Is like,
Mhm.
do you think that if they go down this path of Dina being the instigator,
Mhm.
that once she has this baby, that
Mhm.
that will change her demeanor of going after Abby?
Ooh, good point.
That would have to. I think it was still that demeanor, regardless,
Yeah,
even
But
in
then-
the game.
But then you have that
Because-
still with Tommy, right?
Yeah.
Like Tommy literally has. So I guess you see like the two sides of it,
Yeah.
where he left his child and Jackson, and this is what happened to Tommy.
Yeah.
You know, like you see what happened to Tommy. So maybe I guess I do see that.
Well, they
Um,
need to still have him there for the dynamic of Ellie
Yeah, I
actually
think he's gonna be
going
there.
after
Definitely.
Abby
Like
because of
yeah.
what happens to Tommy.
yeah,
Yeah.
He essentially guilts Ellie to
Right,
go
to
after
go after
Abby
him. Yeah.
towards the end.
yeah,
yeah,
So I'm interested to see how they play that out.
yeah.
Yeah.
But for that to happen, Tommy has to go, and Tommy has to get
yeah,
fucking mangled.
yeah.
Okay, so we have we are getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here.
Yes, we are.
Um,
We are.
Just one more thing to wrap this up. Is after the death of Joel,
Mhm.
we see Ellie getting up, using all of her strength to crawl over to his dead body and lay with him.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts and feelings when you saw that? And then the next scene is just him being dragged by the horses back to Jackson.
I hated that scene just because I didn't want to see his body being fucking dragged.
Yeah.
You don't see that
Yeah.
in the game. They added that to just
Yeah.
he's dead.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I liked it because that showed that even as beat as Ellie was,
Yep.
she mustered up all her strength to be with Joel in his final moments.
Well, and even with that, you saw that with Joel too. Before that final blow
He
into
looked
the
at her.
neck, he tried to lift
Right,
up his
to
head
get up.
and get up
Yeah.
to help her, which
Yeah.
he was unsuccessful in doing, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the true like blatant display of Shotty, how you were saying, it's a story of love.
Yeah. My question is, how did you like the death the way they did it in comparison with the game?
I hated it. I gotta be honest. I hated it.
Okay.
I hated
Okay.
it.
It was too quiet. In all honesty, it was too
I
quiet.
honestly think it was too quiet, but also like especially at the end being him Abby stabbing
Yeah.
instead of it being like the final like the
rage.
crunch
Yeah.
like of the head and like the little and then on top of that like not cutting to I think what's so my editor brain is like what not having the tinnitus sound and like the sound cut out I think is such a mismanaged point because then it's just like I don't know, it just doesn't feel as senseless like I feel like you need to sit in that moment and you really don't. The other thing I also wanted to say with that moment and the Abby's gang is the fact that almost every single one of them is trying to get Abby to back away from this idea and
Yeah.
like already knows. And I don't like that. I like the juxtaposition in the game where it's like some of them absolutely feel that and are just there for Abby because Abby is their friend or whatever,
Yeah.
and then some of them have the fury and rage with them. And you can like obviously like with the kick to the stomach and the one guy who gets his face cut up and like him should be like you bitch and like
They changed that character too.
they changed that character. They're
Because
like
Manny
there's
wasn't
people
the one that got his face cut. It was the other dude that you kill really quickly.
well and yeah and they changed that those characters that really want revenge and you can see none of them really want the revenge.
Yeah.
All of them are just there and I think that again you take that away and it's just like again it's to soften the blow and I think it just doesn't work in this story. You need to have that heavy blow to have some of them be like, I was just trying to like help out Abby, you know, and then have those moments be the moments where it's just like, oh, Ellie kind of like, you know, it went too far there. Whereas then you also have people who are like, yeah, I would have done it again too, you know. And I think that's gonna shake out really badly in the adaptation.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see like kind of where they're going with it. I'm hoping things start kind of lining up a little bit better come this next episode.
Yeah.
Next episode, my predictions, I think they're going to open up with a funeral, which you don't see.
I think they open up with Future Days. If they don't open up with Future Days here, they're doing it at the end. And if they don't do it at the end, this is a botched adaptation. They should put Future Days, or at least something like, obviously, like we have a different timeline now from the game. So they do at least a different song or whatever there, but at least have the Future Days moment. And that's the other thing I will say. Icing on the cake is Through the Valley with Ashley Johnson. The first time we saw anything from The Last of Us was with that song. And on top of that, recontextualized in the show, Ashley Johnson plays her mother. He plays her mother, and this is her mother basically, like Ellie's mother basically talking to Ellie, you know, like
I thought that was very clever.
I really like that. And also with the hand the moment where Ellie's going over to Joel, it's like the hand squeeze moment. And in if you remember in the first season when Joel is sick, she squeezes his hand and he squeezes back and he doesn't squeeze back. And that's the little details that I love. That's the show don't tell. It's only when you like think about it for a few seconds you're like, oh my god,
wow. That hurts.
And that's the masterful story of Neil Druckmann. And I think he just doesn't feel as confident here. Like he just doesn't. Him and Craig Mazin just don't feel as confident with where they're going with this, and they should just stick to what they know. Because I think again, when they do it, it's fucking phenomenal. I think that first season is incredible. It's incredible on its own, and I don't think that this season so far is.
I think it's because the start of the second game just was slow in general.
But I think the start of the second game is perfect.
It's perfect, but again, because you're playing as three different characters to pretty much start off that game.
I think that's what you do with the show, though. I think that's what you should do with the show and like really get that perspective. I think you don't change much about the intro. It's where you go after that and where you place certain things. I think that's when you change the timeline. I think when you get out of Jackson, that's when you change a bit of the timeline and be like, oh, we're going to show a little bit of Ellie and Joel through the time jump here, you know, and we're going to show, you know, a little bits of Abby here so that when you hit Abby, like, it's like, oh, like, there's this whole thing happening. And I think they've kind of just spoiled it, you know? And I hope they do it justice. And I hope, first off, Eugene's story is going to be fucking phenomenal. Because we only have 7 episodes. Like, we need it to hit.
So my question is, if they do Future Days from Last of Us, like with the song and everything, do you think Joel they'll kind of voice over Joel and actually have it Troy Baker singing it?
No, it has to be Pedro. I think it could be another song, a different song. Especially with how they've played with songs in this. Obviously like Take On Me was in the first season. So like
I better be in this season. They better have that moment. I swear to God.
Like you need these quiet moments, and I don't care what song it is. I think you need it to just be Pedro, and no matter how he sings, because I think like not to say that Troy Baker isn't a good singer, but like it's not the fact that he's a good singer. It's the fact that he's singing. It's the fact that he's singing from the heart, and I think that especially because you've already shown the guitar and Ellie has like kind of abandoned it, like so to speak, or at least that's what she tells him. To have this next episode to open up with something like Future Days at the very least, and him getting her the guitar for the first time, I think is gonna hit so much harder.
I think it will.
Yeah,
I do agree though. I do hope they open up with that.
Yeah,
I got it playing right now, just kind of over on one of my other screens. I'm watching it. It's such a sweet moment.
It's
just
quiet.
Young Ellie, staring at him again because I'm watching it right now.
Yeah, it's such a quiet moment.
It is. And she has her arm bandaged up, so this, still very fresh of them just getting the Jackson.
Yeah, and my biggest worry for the future of the season and the series is like something that they've said multiple times in interviews is that this is a bigger series, and I think that's to the detriment of it, because at least so far, because you have things like the Horde, and I think it takes away more like the somber moments and to be more spectacle TV, which can work, but I think when you're doing it in the moments that are the moments, it's hard to really come to grips with. So I'm interested to see. I'm excited. I'm still excited. I still want to watch it. We have 5 episodes left of a season. I mean, what I'm really interested in seeing is what's his name? Commissioner Gordon from the Batman. Anyways, to see his character come back, and really let's delve into his connection with the Fireflies, and let's spend a little bit more time with him because of the aftermath of the Fireflies.
So, here's my question, and I'll kind of give my opinions on it too. How do you think, right now, two episodes in, that they're going to end this season? Where at do you think they're going to do that?
I think they're ending with I let you live. I think they end with I let you live. Truly.
I don't think they're going that far.
When they're in the theater.
So.
You don't think so?
No, I think we have a minimum 3 seasons of this game to go through.
You think so?
I think so too.
We have at least 2, and there is just so much content to go over that I think we have a minimum of 3 seasons to work through everything. I don't even think we get close to that.
Yeah,
I think they end this season when we do the first switch technically over to Abby, and we go through Abby up to the point, or we gotta go through Ellie's entirety of her story leading up to that moment. And then season 3 is going to be all Abby up until Lev and that moment.
Yeah.
And then if they do a 3rd season or a 4th season, it'll be the 2 major events between the Island of the Scars.
Yeah.
Ellie killing everybody. Abby.
Yes.
Don't want to give too much away.
Right.
Yeah.
But Abby does her thing in the theater. And then capping off that season will be probably one of the worst endings of a great game in the history of games.
I wonder,
in my honest opinion, that was the worst ending of the game.
It was pretty bad. Yeah.
You guys don't like the ending of 2?
No.
Not really.
I thought they fell extremely short.
I don't even think it fell short, but I just feel like it took so long to get there.
Yeah.
And you had so much time to get there that the way they presented it it turned me away from it, honestly.
Yeah. I didn't like the ending. The only thing I took away from the ending of that game was technically her not being able to play Jill's song. You know why? But
yeah. But
that's the only thing. Other than that, to me, that finale, again, as already pointed out, took so long to get to that point. For it to be as quick and kind of tedious as it was.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's why I don't like
threw me off
as much, is that I feel like it is too long, and I feel like you don't stay in the moments as much. Like you don't
definitely.
have there is not a Sam and Henry moment in The Last of Us Part 2. There is not a Billstown moment in The Last of Us Part 2. You know, like I don't think that there's these moments that you just remember every single part of one, like because every single part is an impactful part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas like 2, I'm like, oh yeah, then the theater, and oh yeah, then the farm, and so I think that's my biggest thing with that. I like the ending in the way of like it being final, and like the other end of the like what happens with revenge. But yeah, and I wonder like with what you guys are talking about, if that's why they're softening the blow with Abby, because how do you take a year off and just let people fester on Abby being, you know,
not wanting to
it's
watch
such a
her
hard,
at this point.
it's a hard thing to split up into chapters.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the most impactful scene in this series is going to be Abby in the aquarium. I think they're going to give us a very detailed and extremely well written Abby portion.
Yeah,
because you're going to have to like Abby. You are at some point.
I think you can already sympathize with her, though.
You can.
Oh, definitely. Especially from like the gravesite scene in the first episode.
Yes.
When she's, sitting there putting the necklace on the grave.
Mm-hmm.
And or the start of the second episode, whatever it was.
So I think the aquarium scene towards the end is going to be extremely impactful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe more so of that character change and realization of what did I just do?
Right.
Moment.
Yeah, definitely.
I can't wait to see like where they're going to put that and how.
Yeah. Okay. So let's gather some final thoughts and opinions. Anything that you guys want to touch on or say that we may have not hit on already, and then we'll wrap it up.
So first, go ahead.
I was just gonna say my question, and this sounds worse than I mean it, and it's been a point of discussion. What do you think about the stature of Abby right now? Like the fact that she's not this like brick shit house.
My thing. Oh, go ahead, Artie.
I'm willing to look past it, I think.
Okay.
I think it was one of those things to like make you more afraid of her in the game because she looked so strong, and she is so strong.
She's very strong.
She's very strong. But I it's something that is not really bothering me at all at this point in time.
It's not necessarily bothering me, but it's again the character development issue for me because Abby does throw her weight around, and that's how she's able to get like a brute force aspect on being able to go at it alone without anybody because she could handle it herself.
Yeah.
She doesn't seem to have that specific training. I mean, they'll probably incorporate it, but
I think she could have the training. I think for me, the thing that's tough to get past is the fact, and it's not tough to get past. Like obviously, like I can suspend my disbelief, but it's just like I think that it's a story device that she's like it is SpongeBob, right? Like it's the I know nothing but fine dining and breathing. I know nothing but working for the WLF and killing Joel. Like and that's it's like her stature to me has always been like, oh, like she has done nothing. She's abandoned all relationships.
Preparing for the inevitable event.
It's her point of the revenge, right? Like it is a physical point of her. She's abandoned all her relationships. She has done nothing but train to kill Joel. She has become a machine to kill Joel.
Yeah.
And I think like that, taking that away. Well, I initially I was like, oh yeah, like I think I can look past that. I think the way they're going about it makes it harder for me to look past it. And I'm very much not about like the image, like, oh, this person needs to be white or this person needs to be blah blah blah. I think it's just like a story reason where I'm just like, it's a little, it doesn't change, it doesn't ruin the story for me, but it does get me a little bit hung up.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't
because
ruin
it
the
is
story
such
for
a part
me.
of their character.
Yeah, because you gotta think Abby was the strategic, stealthy, I'm going to do this way to get past what I need to get past or do what I need to do.
Yeah.
Abby was the polar opposite. I am going to, down to the weapons that she had.
Right.
You had no silencer. You had no bow and arrow. Everything that she had was, brute
Shotguns
strength and brute force. And I don't know how they'll play that into somebody that is an extremely smaller stature than Abby is in the game.
Right. I think you just have the point where it's two Ellies, right? Like, it is not, it is not. I think it in one way, I think it does make you sympathize with her more in the way of, like, she's just going through the same thing that Ellie's going through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess in some ways you can kind of make that connection, but I think it does take away from the fact that, like, she has done nothing but want revenge.
Well, the way that it was kind of described, I don't remember if it was Druckmann or Mason who said it. It was one of them, though. That it definitely paints them more as parallel entities.
Right.
Where it's like, they
very
are actually the same. Like, going through the same thing, like, they look the same. That's how they painted it. And I think it was from, like, a behind the scenes or a podcast thing that they said that in. And I think it's a valid point. They are both young girls going through very traumatic things.
Yes.
And how they present themselves is not the focal point there.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah,
I'm interested to see where it goes with it too.
Yeah, definitely.
Because, like, I think there is a way you can do that makes it fine. And it's not necessarily I'm like, oh my god, they didn't do, Abby this certain way.
Right.
It's more of a thing of, like, oh, like, the way they're doing it isn't leading me to believe that in that change.
Okay.
Even to get Abby, like, if Caitlin Deaver was, like, a little bit muscular, I think it would have done fine for me.
I think the way that I see it is that they are now a level playing field with one another.
Right.
Like, in a game, it's like, yeah, okay, they have this big blowout at the end, where they're fighting each other, punching each other, whatever. And, like, they're doing pretty equal damage to each other. While Ellie is being a much smaller individual than Abby is. And I think the way that they present each of the actors and each of the characters is that they are equals. Yeah. And I think that makes the sequence later on a little more believable to me. Because, like, if you're this scrawny little kid... if you're this scrawny little kid and you're fighting this beefed up chick, dude, like, you're gonna get your ass beat.
To me, it's like Ballistic was saying, it's like the snake and the lion, where it's like Ellie's got the stealth and is a master of that stealth, and that's why she gets the one up on Abby. Yeah. And Abby's like a brick shit house and is going to take you down. So I don't think, like, that would have taken me out. I'm interested to see how they take that parallel line rather than the
definitely
two juxtapositions. Like, I feel like it's again softening that blow a little bit for me. And again, that might just be for me, it's not the biggest thing, it's just like something that I'm like, it does kind of take away a little bit of the character development for me.
Yeah, we'll see what they decide to do. Hopefully tomorrow's going to kind of set the tone for the rest of the season to me, so
yeah, definitely.
I agree.
Okay, so last season we did episode rankings. Is that something you were interested in doing again this season?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so we'll go for episode 1 and 2. Ballistic, what are your thoughts?
Episode 1. That one gets a solid 10 for me.
Really?
100%. They stayed to the sequence to the T. That was a 1-for-1 game representation. That solid 10. Episode 2. I want to give us 6.
Okay.
I think Joel's death wasn't as impactful as it could have been. Okay. I think it wasn't as traumatic because of the stab to the neck. It wasn't because Ellie didn't have the image of Joel getting his head smashed in. It was quick. It was too quick. That's why I said before it was too quick, too quiet. So the switches as well, the character switches between the dynamic threw me off. Other than that, it was a great episode. These are again our rankings, not due to episode. It's comparison for me for game to games episode. That is my ranking system. That's how I do it. So people that want to come at me, go for it. I'm right here. Okay.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't come after us. We said that at the start. Don't do that.
Comment, say something nice about somebody. Care about
yeah, you say something nice. Shotty, let's get your
that's my
rankings here.
I'm gonna do something a little different. I'm not trying to be
fine.
different.
No,
I'm not trying, but I'm gonna do something a little different because it's how I do. I'm gonna do
totally
it.
Fine.
Because the number rankings kind of like get me, like I'm like, oh, but do I feel this way?
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Right now, where we stand, I think both of these episodes sit firmly in a C tier for me.
Okay.
I think that they haven't. There hasn't been enough time to prove that the changes are good or bad for me. I think that there's still time to move it either way, so that might change. But as of right now, I don't feel strongly about either of these episodes enough to call out like a solid, like I don't hate them. Like I'm still want to watch the series, but I'm also kind of indifferent. Like I'm also watching Andor right now, and like both those episodes, or all three of those episodes, triple S tier. Like that is like some of the best television that's being put out, and I'm just like, oh yeah, The Last of Us is tomorrow. Like I'm finding myself like The Last of Us tomorrow, and I'm like, oh, but Tuesday Andor. You know, like it's not just because I'm a Star Wars fan. It's like it's actually that good, and I really want Last of Us to be that good. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, I can understand that totally, absolutely. I think that makes a whole lot of sense, and the way that we did it last season, which I know you weren't with us last season, or we were going to do it. We didn't ever end up doing it, but we were going to do like a recap at the end of the season and like revisit each episode after we had already seen everything and reevaluate. So I am totally okay with doing that this season if you're both up for it. Once we find out like the pacing and so on and so forth.
Because I think it'll lead up better with the seasons coming.
Yeah, definitely.
And
Hopefully seasons coming, not season, because if they split it between two seasons, I think they're going to severely
You're gonna miss a lot of
undershoot
stuff.
this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think like going back through it, and being like, oh yeah, the episode 1 I rank at a B now because they actually proved me wrong, or I'm like, no, this is more of a D. You know, like. So.
Yeah.
Buddy.
Yeah.
You know?
I think at this point where I stand is episode 1, I'm going to give like a solid 8. It was a 1 for 1, and you know I love a good gay scene. We know that from last season. Those are my favorite episodes of the season.
This is a very gay episode.
Yes,
I like
yes,
it.
and I love those, and we know that. And I think episode 2 probably ranks at an 8, 5, or 9. Just because, I really did enjoy it. I thought there was a lot of interesting action that made it really intense, alongside the pure devastation that you get from Joel dying.
Okay.
And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay. That's very different scores on all across. That's actually very good for debates.
Yeah. Well, and I think it helps because you compare it more to the game, whereas like media literacy for me is not strong enough like that to be like, this character did this and this and this and this. I don't remember that shit. I don't remember who was at the cabin, bro. I know Joel and Ellie and Abby were there. That's what I remember, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's,
I think for me, it's very much less of a fact like, oh, this needs to be 1-to-1. It's more of the fact of like, oh, but why did they change that? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like I loved the changes that they did in season 1, and I loved the additions that they did in season 1 because they felt like additions. They felt like true additions where it's just like, yeah, we're gonna shuffle this up, you know, like you know, and that's kind of what 2 feels like to me. Part 2.
They're shuffling a little bit too much right now.
They are shuffling for sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that was pretty good discussion overall.
Yeah.
yeah, there was a lot to cover. There will be
There was
significantly
2
less
episodes.
next week. Yeah, so it'll be maybe a little less overwhelming. Thank you both for being here. I appreciate it a whole bunch.
Absolutely. I love this.
And thank you for watching. If you made it to this point, I really appreciate that. And we will see you next week with the episode 3 recap. I'll catch you later.
Bye-bye.